How's it going, guys? Coffee here. Today I wanted to go over my recommendations for new players, veteran players, whoever it may be, for going through Lab and some great tools and tricks that you can use to ensure that regardless of what build you are playing, that you can not get frustrated with Lab and not have a bad time with Lab. Because there's a lot of little tips and tricks and things that you can do out there that can really make a big difference on the experience that you are getting with Lab. First and foremost is the website PoELab.com. PoE Lab is run by a player suit size small, and every day they will go through and run all four of the labyrinths after they are updated, and then they'll document every single room, as well as document exactly where the Darkshrines are, where the silver keys are, every single room, and recommended paths if you get to an end area like this, where you see there are alternate areas. With the labyrinth changes that they're making this league, with them no longer dropping in, or no longer giving enchants, but they're now giving transfigurations to gems, or adjustments to gems, or things involving gems. They've also decided to move the Grand Spectrum Jewels, which are like the most valuable thing that you can possibly get to drop out of Lab. They have moved them from the final treasure chests that you get at the end of the Labyrinth into the side chests from the treasure troves. So if you see here these marks on PoE Lab that are marked as G, these are gauntlets, and these will have those chest rewards. So either the gauntlet will either have a chest reward for the gauntlet, or sometimes it'll be like keys, or it will give something that will disable some of the bonuses that the Izaro is getting in Lab itself. So these are going to be something that you may end up wanting to start running now, depending on if the drop rate of Grand Spectrum ends up changing. Because of the fact that they're not just in the final chests anymore, they might end up increasing the drop rate to where it highly incentivizes ensuring you're doing the puzzles and ensuring you're doing the gauntlets, things like that. The greatest thing in regards to PoE Lab as well is that the puzzle solutions are all here on the site, as well as some recommended lab builds. But again, this video isn't about trying to make a lab speedrunner. This is just about ensuring you're having a good time running it and having some tips and tricks to help you through with any character you have. So with that being said, there is this thing down here below where it says Lab Compass file. And what this does is this allows you to download a file every day for this program called Lab Compass here that you can find under Tools. And you can see with the setup here that you do have to enable output dialog to chat. If you have any other third-party software that already interfaces with the game, what this does is it is reading the log file of the game, which is basically telling the software exactly where you are. So that's how it knows what room you're in. So it's going to show you on an overlay exactly what room you're in and which direction like the Darkshrines are at, which direction the puzzles are at, the key rooms, things like that. But you can download this. This comes from GitHub here. This person has a release that they released back in 2019, and everyone's been using it since then. I already have it downloaded. This is one of those things that I highly recommend for players, especially because of the fact that it will, for starters, it's going to make your lab better, but it will also actually make you learn the layouts better as well. So this is something, so let's go ahead and, so once you have actually downloaded and installed, or downloaded Lab Compass, it doesn't have an installer, you just unpack it and run it. You click on this little arrow here, and you're going to you want to just click on import maps, and then we're just going to go ahead and import today's map here. And what you'll see here is this is the actual labyrinth that is matching the same labyrinth that you're seeing on PoE Lab here, right? If we go back here, this is the same one you're seeing on PoE Lab, except this will be an overlay in the corner of your actual map when you're actually playing. So we can close this now that this is imported, and now when we actually go to do the lab in game, we're going to go ahead and see this. But before we get into lab, there are a few different things that you can do to ensure that you are not going to have issues with accidentally dying in there, and you're not going to be wasting your time. First and foremost is to ensure that you are going into lab with a bleed flask. The thing with the traps is a lot of the traps are going to end up end up putting a bleed on you, which is typically the thing that ends up killing most people when they are actually in lab, is typically going to be a trap. So having life flasks is good for that. When it comes to your Pantheons, most people will run just the extra life flask charges so that you can't end up getting yourself stuck in the middle of a trap without any life flasks. Or you can end up taking this one where you do not take extra bleeding damage while moving, because typically people are trying to move through traps fast. They get hit by one and then they're running with the bleed, and that's what ends up killing them. It all comes down to personal preference. I typically will just run like the life flask charges one, but if you end up running this other setup that I'm recommending here, you can always run the bleed one instead, because you're going to have plenty of healing. The other thing that you can run is Steel Skin. Will make you immune to bleeding while you have it. So if this is the guard skill that you have, or the guard skill that you want to run, this will give you immunity to bleeding while you have it up. I don't really typically use this one myself, but it is typically out there. I mean, I won't typically go around and change the guard skills that I'm using, but one thing that I do actually use very frequently on almost all my early builds for a setup like this is I will set up I will try to go into lab with Enduring Cry. So Enduring Cry is just basically going to give you a big amount of regen based off of the skill itself, and when you are using Enduring Cry, you can use this with Second Wind support. And what Second Wind support does is this is going to give you an extra charge of Enduring Cry. So now instead of having one, this is basically flasks that, you have a flask setup that you have an infinite amount of, because it's always coming off of cooldown. So if you ever find yourself in trouble in the middle of a trap or something, you can just pop Enduring Cry, and that's going to give you a nice big heal. The heal, especially at lower levels, is going to be quite significant, right? It's typically going to be on par with about your life pool as you are in lower levels. Now that we're, this character's towards endgame here, it's not healing as much, but it is still doing a really, really good job at keeping me alive. The other thing that is another tool that you recommend is Phase Run. Phase Run itself gives you a big boost of movement speed, as well as phasing, which will help you again go through monsters very quickly so that you're not getting stuck on mobs. Typically, mobs themselves are one of the biggest things that, again, people will get stuck in a pack of mobs and they get hit by all of them, because they're not just trying to kill everything while they're going through. You're just trying to move through quickly. So you can run Phase Run for that if you want. But again, it depends on what build you're playing. It's not necessary, but if you want to, it's always there. So let's actually go ahead and pull up Lab itself, and let's go over some of the little things that you're going to be able to see with Lab Compass that will help you out, as well as just some useful tips and tricks when it comes to navigating. Typically, if you aren't actually using the Lab Compass map itself, typically going up and right is going to be the recommended path for where you want to go, almost always, but which even in this circumstance it is as well. So I will typically end up having my overlay up, and then the more you do these, the more you'll learn the layouts. So typically the first lab run or the first room layout, you're either basically going to already immediately be able to go to this here, or it's going to end up pathing you around. You're going to go through a little room to the left and then go through. The best thing about Lab Compass is it tells you exactly what room you're trying to exit to. So make sure this name matches with Lab Compass and ensure you're going to the right room. So as you see here, there are these yellow dots on the map. What this is telling us is that these are basically the potential spawn points for either the Darkshrine or Argus in this case. So the more you do these, you can basically very frequently or very quickly check the room to see if this is going to be the Darkshrine. I'll show you what the Darkshrine. This is an Argus room. Well, we can show you him as well. So Argus will give you a additional treasure key for doing him. I don't recommend doing him with builds that are squishy, because he can actually kill you typically. But if you have a build that's strong enough and you want to get an extra treasure key, you can go ahead and do that. He's right there. But the Darkshrine room itself, you can actually see it on the minimap. So let's go ahead and find it here, and I can show you what it looks like. So the Darkshrine room will look the same regardless of... it'll look the same always on every single thing here. So when you actually see it on the mini-map, you'll start to be able to recognize it very, very far away without having to look at it that much, or without having to see it a bunch. So let's find it. It should be over here in the corner. Oh yeah, so if you look at this, basically this is the room that you're looking for to find on the corner here. This, you'll see this, basically this hallway leading to a small little tiny room like this. That's what the Darkshrine room will always look like. It'll be a small little hallway with a wall like this. You'll run up to it, you'll see the hallway, but you won't see next to it. So this is where you basically run around or drag your mouse around until you see the switch label pop up. You're going to click on this and you're going to hit Darkshrines. If you do have a build that is on the squishier side of things, the first time you're doing either like Merciless Lab or Uber Lab, then I highly recommend ensuring that you are going after the Darkshrines, because with the Darkshrines you do have the possibility of getting these really, really beneficial buffs. So such in this case, this is an impenetrable shrine. There's shrines that will give you an unlimited amount of shrines that will make you crit everything. There are shrines that will disable the traps. In there's shrines that just give you a huge giant boost to movement speed, or things that make you invulnerable. So those are always good if you are running a build, again, that is on the squishier side of things when it comes to trying to do this fight. So when it comes to Izaro, if you end up disabling his benefits that he's getting, so in this one he's going to be getting benefits from conduits. If you end up killing these, then you are going to be lowering the amount of keys that you get at the end. But most builds you don't typically have to do that. The one thing I can say is the best thing to do when it comes to Izaro is keep him close to you. It is much easier to just repeatedly get behind him and avoid his attacks if you are staying close. The times where you'll find yourself getting in trouble is if you end up having him be off screen and then he'll use a really long attack and you can't really see which direction he's attacking. But the more you do this, the more you'll get comfortable staying right in his face and basically treating it like a Dark Souls fight, where as soon as they go to attack, because his attacks are really telegraphed and they take a really long time to go off, you can either flame dash them or just run around him. So you see here again, there's a trap gauntlet over here, and the best thing with Lab Compass is this teaches you the locations for the things like Darkshrines or the trap gauntlets. So in this case, if I did want to do the trap gauntlet, I would know it's over here. These trap gauntlets are again going to have all these little switches or things that you end up needing to click. I don't typically push those, or I don't typically do them, but I guess with this new league, they'll be something that you'll want to do now, just because of the fact that with the Grand Spectrum Jewels being there, and Grand Spectrum Jewels being upwards of 40 to 50 divines, this is going to be something that's worth doing, right? Because if this is the Labyrinth Trove and this is the new chest that now holds Grand Spectrums, it's worth spending the extra 20, 30 seconds or whatever it is just to end up running these chests over here and going through. So other than that, again, you're going to just follow your lab compass here. You see it basically points the rough layout of the room. It's not always going to have it perfect. Sometimes it can get it perfect and sometimes it doesn't. But it is good to know. Same thing here. So the green dot is the dot that we are starting at here, or the dot that we're ending at, rather. Because this is a gold key room, this is just going to send us in a loop so that we can go and get the gold key here. So as you can see here, again, if you just want to go through things, you can typically just use Enduring Cry. What I will try to do is I will just try to always use Enduring Cry first. That is my go-to habit, I guess, is to use Enduring Cry first. And then same thing again, hallway with a room here. So there is a Darkshrine over here. Let's go ahead and run through, grab that. A squishier builds, again, if you have it ranged, make sure you're throwing your attacks in there first. You can see volatiles in there. It's not very common that you do actually see them in there, but I've seen it before, so it wouldn't be the first time I've seen someone die to them in there by not killing the mods first or not waiting for the explosions. When it comes to these if you are newer, again, these green things that you're seeing here will basically damage you if you use a movement skill while inside of them. And then the the pink ones rather are going to be hitting you with temporal chains. In order to, I need to change this loop filter. It's going to drive me crazy. It will hit you with temporal chains in order to slow you. So do keep that in mind if you have a build that's spamming a lot of movement skills very quickly. Then you want to make sure you're killing those totems. And then you can see here, now that we have the key, it's recommended we go to the next room here, which is the golden door. Use the golden door, and then we're just going to go ahead and path through. So when it comes to these larger layouts, again, it's going to give you a rough layout of this. So we know there's two different loot things here. For, again, personally, I'll only go for the Darkshrines typically. But this is marking them on the map, so the more and more you do this, eventually you'll get to the point where you don't need to use Lab Compass, right? This is a teaching tool. I personally recommend it just for the sake of like learning it, right? I mean, after a few years, if you're running Lab a lot, or probably even a month or so of running Lab a lot, you'll actually start to learn the layouts for a lot of the rooms, and you'll be very, very familiar with exactly where the things are, and you don't actually need to be using the Lab Compass at all to get them, or to know where the puzzles and the gauntlets and things are. And then same thing goes, so for the Izaro mechanics, again, if you can manage to kill him without actually triggering the mechanics, then you are going to be better off. But that's not always possible depending on your build. Again, stay close to him, make sure you're flame dashing or moving through him as soon as he goes to attack. That is always going to be the safest way to kind of do things without basically having him accidentally hit you at the end of his attack off screen. So this is one of those other layouts here that it doesn't really have much to give you because the rooms vary so much that it's just going to give you one side or the other here. So there was a bleed there that you saw, and there's a little switch here to go through if you choose the wrong path. A lot of the times with these levers, they're designed for if it's like group play to where only one person has to do the harder setup here, or the harder puzzle, and the other person gets to take an easier path. But you'll start to learn the layouts for these where like you'll learn that, okay, if it's sending you to the left like this, you're kind of going in this like a backwards C shape basically, so you're not trying to go left too early. You'll start to get a feel for exactly just how far north you need to go every single time. When it comes to a lot of these layouts, like that one said I needed to go this way. If you weren't using Lab Compass and you just ran upright, you would have found the other room and you would have ended up on the north path anyways. So it's not like really super required in order to do that, right? Or in order to actually make it through Lab. It just does make things a lot easier because Suit Size Small is running the multiple paths every single day. Then they're going to give their recommendation for what is going to be the what they believe to be the fastest or the most rewarding room, just because they're actually running Lab multiple times per day. And then let's go ahead and finish this off here. Same thing goes. So if you did actually go and pursue the silver keys, you would actually be able to take the silver cash there. But without that, saving flame dash and things like that just to get over the bigger trap rooms is always good. And then other than that, you just want to, again, keep moving forward. And we're going to go ahead and get through here. And then the other things, I guess, now with gems are the new basically currency or the new things that are going to be used at the end with the divine fonts. So with those, what you want to ensure you're doing, you're going to basically want to ensure for starters that you just have at least a few gems of every color so that you can basically swap them out or trade them out with some of the new mods that you're getting. And then as you get later in the game, because there's a mod now that gives you experience based off of a percentage of the experience from the gem, if you can end up getting yourself a cheap Awaken Jewel really late in the league, you're going to want to basically just take a level 5 Awaken Jewel and use that to trade in for some experience, because it's, from what I'm being told, it's like somewhere of almost an entire level from 99 to 100. So based off of that, it might be really, really rare, or the numbers might be adjusted. But it'll be really, really cool to see if it's actually possible to get some significant leveling while in lab. Same thing goes, just as usual. When you get to Izaro here at the end, you want to just make sure you're not panicking. Stay behind him, and collect your keys and move forward. So in regards to the chests, I don't know. I just opened whichever the first two chests are. I'm not typically in a hurry. I will typically go to the altar first, just because there has been issues before in the past with lab crashing. So as long as you've clicked on the altar, that actually like snapshots and saves your character from that point. But if you haven't clicked this yet and actually selected that, then you haven't gotten the 2 points from doing lab yet. In there, same thing goes if you do end up, if you are trying to actually do a reset on your ascendancies, you would have to go in here and basically refund everything before you click on that altar. Refund all these points here, and then when you click on the altar, it would actually let you swap your class if you wanted to. So with the Divine Font here, one of the other things you can get from Darkshrine would be to double your, or give you a second hit at the Divine Font. But I don't actually need anything here. You know what, I'll take some Commandment of Light. I can't crit on this build, but that's fine. We'll go ahead and craft this on some gloves anyways. So with this is going to be new now. It is going to be all related to gems now, which is going to be a big change for the game, but it's going to be an interesting one. So lab may end up being really, really profitable, and hopefully these tips can help people out. If you do have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. And other than that, see you in the next one.